Hello and welcome everybody to another week of the BEARSKIFILM show. Tonight we're joined by Nomad from the Nomad Network. If you guys have not checked out his YouTube channel, I highly suggest doing so. A lot of good, long, in-depth conversations about Bears, and, going into the Bears roster and week-to-week thoughts and everything. I mean, Nomad covers it all. So, Nomad, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing swell, man. Thank you guys for having me on, man. You know me, say Bears football, and I'm your Huckleberry, man. So,
for sure, man. I hear you. So I just wanted to start it off kind of, David, I know you did a show recently with Carl, and it was a great show, by the way. You guys went for like 2 hours, but, I had to sit there and I had to hear your whole McCaskey act again, the rant and the blaming of George and, the whole mommy talk and everything like that. Got to make mommy happy and all the things that you always do. And, and this time I wasn't in the show, so I didn't get a chance to rebuttal. And you know me, man, I could only listen to that stuff for so long before I just have to kind of just take a step back and address it a little bit again. Like, man, still, and I know it's the hot topic right now, it really is. I still blame ownership, I don't know, 5-10%. Like this whole mess, in my opinion, there's blame at every single level. On the field, with the coaches, which I think where most of it lies this time. And Ryan Poles is getting, unfortunately, I liked him a lot early on. In my opinion, he's just, getting worse and worse as time goes on. And this whole Matt Eberflus fiasco, I really feel falls on him. Now, Dave, during the offseason, we said, hey, let's be a step ahead. Let's go out and get Jim Harbaugh. And I get it. And a lot of teams, have the background and the stability to be able to go out and make those kind of moves, right? However, with Ryan Poles being here so early on, you could also made a case that said, hey, this guy's year 2 going into year 3. He's improved from year 1 to year 2. I get it. This and that. You could have made the case for keeping him. So I understood where they really messed this thing up is with Shane Waldron. I mean, I truly believe that that's where it all went south. And that was the worst hire from the offseason. And I don't know. I know you like to throw the McCaskey name around there, but I just wanted to, like I said, take a step back a little bit because we weren't calling for Georgia's head at the beginning of the year when this team was the best team that a number 1 overall draft pick quarterback had stepped foot into. So, yeah, I just kind of feel like my frustrations are kind of starting to just bleed into more of Ryan Poles than anything else. And I don't know. I wanted to get your thoughts on it. I don't know, Dave, if you want to respond to that right away or if you want to give Nomad a shot, because I have no idea what Nomad's stance on the McCaskies or anything like that is, to be honest with you. So
I'm gonna have Nomad go, but before I do want to say I did rewatch a little bit of my shtick of that, and I do need to chill on bullying George. I'll put it that way. I still hate him. I don't like him. I do think at the end of the day, all of this falls on him. But to be fair, before he took over ownership responsibilities, I would say the Bears were bad through the 90s and in the 80s too, and that wasn't him necessarily either. So I do think infrastructurally, I think the Bears are dumb. But before I continue and kind of go through what I saw today and yesterday, Nomad can kind of go over that and kind of decide in between us where he stands.
Well, if we're talking about the McCaskies in particular, I'll just keep my comments there for a second. You got, like, for me, I got to forgive a guy who comes out right away and lets me know, nah, I'm not a football guy. I'm not a football guy. What I'm trying to do, I'm a fan just like you all are. I'm trying to find the right people to right this ship and get this thing going in the right direction. And he more or less said, it's a process. It takes time to get the right people. I do think he's got the right GM. I don't where I have a problem with. I have a real problem with, Dave, is I'm not sure what happened as far as that coaching search went the last time around with getting Matt Eberflus. You put some truth serum in me and asked me would that be actually Ryan Poles' first pick to be the head coach of the team? I'd be like, out of all the people in the world, hell no. I think the more and more we look back on it, I think that was a decision that was made before he got there. And so all the stuff that we're upset about with the Bears right now, I think kind of segues back to that decision and who made it, why they made it, how it came to be. And I think Ryan Poles got saddled with it and did the best he could with it, supported him the best he could, and ended up where we are. That's what I believe. I just don't believe Ryan Poles made that pick himself. It was too much going on in the front office. This whole thing with the coach, old GM, and Trace Armstrong. You can't make me believe that was a Ryan Poles pick. No.
I appreciate the answer in the sense of being a little bit more measured than I am instead of a super overreactionary like I tend to do. The one thing I would say that, and it's not you contradicting, it's George himself just contradicting himself every step of the way. If you're saying, like you give him props for, hey, I'm not a football guy, I could forgive that too. I could easily forgive that. But if you are not a football guy, stop interfering with the guys that you put in charge when you claim not to be a football guy, right? So when you say, hey, I'm not a football guy, I'm going to mess this up, then don't do any coaching search. Don't do 3 candidates for your GM to hire after you've already interviewed him, after you've given him your top 3. And I'm going to and Paul even says it. He's like, no, the proof is in the detail, is that he was hired and then was told that he could hire anyone he wants. But these are the 3 that we vetted so far. Man, if I'm Ryan Poles and I'm an assistant GM, and you can tell me who's the head coach now in Carolina. It's forget his name. Good, handsome young dude from Tampa. Like good looking young 35-year-old, really top
Dave
flight,
Canales.
smart. Dave Canales. I was going to say Dave something. Dave Canales, I think, again, you want to talk about truth serum, like you go into Carolina, like you're going into the worst owner in the league. A guy who has his finger in every pot, a guy who is going to yell at you about everything. But at the same time, I think David Tepper was like, dude, I'm going to stay out of your way. When you want to bench Bryce Young, even though I drafted him a year ago, go for it, because this is your show. In my mind, I don't think a McCaskey would even let that happen. So when you're Ryan Poles, you get hired as a new GM, and your new boss goes like, hey, Ryan, like, hey, we did all this work, wink, wink, and we like these guys a lot, wink, wink. Here's your new paycheck and your new job, wink, wink, but you can totally ignore me if you want. No man is going to go in on his first day of work and go like, yeah, you know what, boss, you are wrong as fuck. I'm going to eliminate all 3 of these and bring in my own new 3 candidates. Like, that's just like you can't expect a guy to do that. So maybe you're right. Maybe I'm not. A lot of this is the lack of transparency with the Bears organization. And I think these press conferences today just kind of, I don't think anybody, and I remember watching those alone before seeing them being reacted to on Twitter and watching them and just being like, wow, those could not have gone any worse. That press conference could not have been. And then thankfully, the rest of Twitter apparently agrees with me and thinks that whole thing was a catastrophe. I was left with more questions than answers. I was left with more wonder of what the hell is going on over there, who is actually in charge. And I think it's all bad. And when it is all that bad, and even at this point, like if I was George McCaskey and I was as fed up as he claims he always constantly is, I would literally fire Kevin Warren too. I would fire Kevin Warren, Ryan Poles, everyone above me, and hire a whole new football operations staff. If you're as frustrated as you claim to be, George, that's just,
hey, Dave,
you're not doing anything right.
Hey, Dave, I want to challenge you to do this. And this is not me rebutting anything you had to say.
I'm gonna rebuttal it. If you don't, I will.
Man, I get I get exactly what he's saying. But one thing we tend to leave out, Dave, is there's a through line in all of it, and he never gets talked about. See what I see the McCaskey organization as, it's like that cartoon where that person looking at the other person's head looks like a sucker. It's like that's what the McCaskies look like to everybody else in the league. And I think Trace Armstrong took him for everything that it was worth. I think they leaned on him for all the advice, getting the Flus, getting the ex coach GM to come in here. I think all of that was connected. And I think that's the glue to everything that we have right now. He's the agent of Getsy. Remember Getsy, who was supposed to be getting plucked out of here after 1 year, on the staff. He was everything next to Sean McVay, bringing his system in. And what happened with him? You got Flus, and you got Poles, all Trace Armstrong clients. So the connectivity is right there. It's about pointing the finger where it belongs. They know they don't know what they're doing in McCaskey household. They know that. It's about, there are such easy marks. Is that you got to have people qualified. Like Kevin Warren, I don't. That guy's an administrator.
Mm-hmm.
That guy, he's supposed to be sitting in a boardroom trying to figure out rich people's money and how to allocate their resources and funds. That's what he does. Football operations and personnel and all that kind of stuff, he has no business being there. And I got a problem with that. You give that to the general manager and let him do that. If he consults you and brings the last decision by your desk and says, okay, what do you think about this guy or this guy? Then you get in. But for you to go out there and basically clip his sacks and then tell everybody in front of everybody, he's in charge, nobody's buying that. This wasn't a PR crisis. And that's the way they treated it today. They treated it like a PR crisis. What really should have happened is Ryan Poles should have came in front of the media. Look, I let Matt Eberflus go. These are the reasons. I put Thomas Brown as an interim. These are the reasons. I like what he has and what he can bring to the table. Let's see what he has for 5 games. Get the hell on out of there. All the stuff that went on today, man, that was just such a.
Oh, I got plenty of comments on that as well, Nomad, and I got a list of what each person in that organization kind of deserves to be talked about, and I totally forgot about the whole Trace Armstrong thing, if I'm being honest with you, and I did remember that after the fact about just hiring basically an agent as a consultant to help you now find your new crew, and yeah, that's part of the problem, and I agree with you. But yeah, Paulie, rebuttal.
No, because once again, you did the McCaskey act, the impersonation, right? I love it, but
did I? I didn't even notice.
Yeah, you did. But what you said in there is they wouldn't be able to bench the quarterback without McCaskey's approval. That's wrong. It's just straight up wrong. So I think we get into this part where we tend to start even blaming them even more just because that is the hot topic. I totally believe they could sit there and bench a quarterback without having the owner's approval. I don't think George McCaskey is that.
You're right, and that was probably a little bit too far, yeah.
Right, and so that's what I mean. Like, I just want, if we're going to sit there and actually, make these kind of judgments and everything like that, then I want the line to be very clear of, what I mean, of what is speculation versus what is fact or 99% or more likely, you know what I mean, or something like that. So, yeah, dude, I agree with you. I agree with you with the whole process that they have.
I would like one thing you said there, though. I would like the line to be clear. I would love the line to be even 50% more clear. I would settle for 50% because part of that problem and what I get frustrated with, George, and maybe it's not as deep as benching a quarterback. And I agree with you. That was probably a dramatic step too far. But everything else, we have no idea. And report after report tells us one thing and report after report tells us another. And one moment, Ryan Poles was the sole person keeping Matt Eberflus here in last year's offseason. We were told that. And then we were told that week 6 or week 5, whatever it was with New England, Ryan Poles is the only person trying to get Matt Eberflus out. So let me get this straight. He has the power and the ability to keep him here single-handedly last offseason, but he doesn't have the power single-handedly to fire him mid-season. What are we talking about here? Matt Eberflus would get paid either way. So what was the objection? Where was the line drawn? And I have so many.
What is the final result? What is the final result?
Matt Eberflus was fired.
Okay, so a couple of weeks too late. Sure. I get it, David.
11 months too late.
Well, yes, but like I said, if you go back 11 months, you could make a fair argument for a logical reason to hold on to him and move forward with him. I didn't agree with it. You didn't agree with it. Neither of us agreed with it. I would have totally supported Jim Harbaugh here. However, I still understood the other side and that there is at least a little bit of logic there into doing that, even though we both disagreed with it, right? Not our choice. They made their bed. They have to lay in it, right? And that's why it came as no surprise to me or you, I think, that Matt Eberflus got fired. But then, then you look at this organization that's never done that type of move before during the season. Of course they're going to handle it wrong. I mean, they handled a lot of things wrong. You can't, you know what I mean? So, yeah, but at the end of the day, I think what kind of is important to me, though, is that it did happen. Okay, late, sure. I mean, I don't know how much benefit you get from releasing him after the Patriots game. What are you going to save? You said save a season. on Carlos Brown? What season are you saving? You think if we get rid of Matt Eberflus after week 6, all of a sudden we might win the trophy this year? It's not happening, right? You might just buy yourself a little bit more time to be able to scout Thomas Brown, or in that case, you brought up a good point too, where at that point you would have probably had Eric Washington be your interim head coach and not Thomas Brown, and Shane Waldron would have still been here, right? Like, so plenty ways to look at it. And at the end of the day, I do want to circle around back to the title of the show, and that is Thomas Brown the leader of men that Chicago Bears need? Because, he had his press conference as well. And I want to talk about the polls and Kevin Warren press conference as well. But did you
I think it makes sense to start from the top bottom and then work our way to the top. So I agree with you. We can do Thomas Brown first.
So yeah, did you hear Thomas Brown speak, and what did you take out of his press conference, and just what are your initial feelings about the guy, and is he a legitimate candidate to keep around moving forward, or is this just a ride it out till the end of the year thing?
I'm not going to get into it too deep because I don't want to take any answers from Nomad in case he would like to answer as well. So I'm just going to kind of brush over it a little bit. I'm going to keep it simple. I have a full-on man crush on Thomas Brown at this point. I need to see what he can do as a game manager and in terms of the full array of things that he's going to be responsible for. And as a first-time head coach, I think those things can be overwhelming, and a lot of people are just kind of like, yeah, but that's a lot to ask from a guy who went from passing game coordinator now to OC, now to head coach. Like, the only thing I think he's missing here is a full off season, right, as a head coach to like establish who his team is and everything. But in terms of experience, the guy was the assistant head coach to Sean McVay. He was literally second in line that if Sean got sick or needed a day off, he was the second guy there. So he has been kind of groomed to do this. In terms of my biggest issue with it is we might be expecting too much from him in the sense of he is still working with Waldron's playbook and all of his schemes, and he can make adjustments to them, but they're not his. And it's not his staff underneath him. But when you talk about like guys who get fired, and then the guys underneath them usually tend to kind of just step up and be like, hey, well, Shane brought me here. I was his wide receivers coach, so I like the guy, and I can't really talk negatively about Shane and da-da-da. All the people who used to work for Shane Waldron and Matt Eberflus have only sung praises for Thomas Brown. I think there is part of this that kind of hints towards the fact that everybody could kind of the smart people, I'll put, were seeing through the bullshit and kind of knew that Thomas Brown was the best choice for this in this season and in this case. But I have a full-on man crush in the way he handles himself at A, press conferences and what he's done so far with the offense. And then B, I'm more interested in the next 5 games than I've been in the last 8, I would say, because after game 2 with the Texans, I pretty much knew the season was a wrap. However, you still had to watch it. But with the next 5 games, I feel like there's a legitimate chance for seeing something here that may lead you into interest towards the future and save something with your season. And I'll come back to it once. I do want to hear about Nomad and what he thinks of Thomas Brown. So,
dude, you think you have a man crush on him? Dude, I put a video out, a short out, and I went back to my guy Chris, our producer, man, our old producer, man. He passed away, and I was just refreshed just to hear his voice. And I put out a clip, and it's from January 30th of last year, right? And so it's at the very beginning of 2024, and he was in the coaching carousel. And when I heard that he was there, I really didn't know. I knew of Thomas Brown as a football player when he was at Georgia, dog, straight up dog. So my people ought to go check those highlights out and just remind themselves of how Thomas Brown is made. He's really like that, man. And so anyway, I went and got that clip and I put it out there. So anybody wants to check that out, it's out there. Listen, 100%. I'm like, I don't care, because he was in the coaching cycle for offensive coordinator at the time. I had no idea that they was going to bring him in at this capacity that he was brought in. What was it? Passing game coordinator. All I knew is if you get a chance to get him in the building, keep him in the building, do all you can to get him in the building. That's how glowing the reports were on Thomas Brown. From coaches, that coaches can get into the coach speak and they can really lay it on thick. Because it's a small secret society, basically, is what it is within the coaching ranks, man, and they're gonna take care of each other, right? However, once it goes to the players and what the players think about him, man, I'm telling you, this guy, all he needs is opportunity. All he needs is the opportunity. Give him an opportunity. Give him the resources he needs. Because as a former football player, I know what I want in front of me, leading me in front of a room. If he's giving out barking orders, let that guy be a dude. I know this dude is with me. I want to play for him. If you got that intangible, all you need now is a plan. And that goes back to what Dave just said. Give him an off season, give him the resources, give him whatever he needs. To me, that is all you need. They're gonna turn this into Kevin Warren's gonna turn this into a circus. Some Ringling Brothers, SHIT that it doesn't need to be. And in my opinion, it's the requirements for a head coach. I think this guy's got it in spades. You know what I mean? All he needs is time, a plan, and a boost of confidence. That's all he needs. I mean, so everybody's going to get enamored with the shiny new pieces out there, the head coaches here or the assistants there, coordinators here or there. And that's all good. But that's like Ben Johnson, for example. Let me tell you something. I'm an all 22. I probably watched too much of it. And gone honest with you guys, there's nothing special about what Ben Johnson does. Ben Johnson, without that offensive line. So what I'm telling you guys is, if we hire Ben Johnson, hopefully we can bring that offensive line with us. Because without that offensive line, nothing he does is special. There's nothing out of the ordinary. It's a couple trick plays here and there, some reverses and different things like that he pulls out. Really good stuff. But on a whole, there's nothing without that offensive line and David Montgomery and Gibbs. What do you have? We don't have any of that here. He's
very low on my list of desired coaches as well.
Yeah, we got DeAndre Swift and a couple canned goods. That's what we have. An offensive line, we have Darnell Wright and canned goods.
So I guess my issue with Thomas Brown would be just as a general philosophy for the next head coach. I really feel like this team is at a spot where it needs structure and stability. I don't even care about like the high end potential for the coach. It doesn't need to be the best coach out there, in my opinion. I think we just need to get somebody in here who knows what they're doing, who has done it before in the NFL, who can bring some type of legitimate staff with him and at least create some stability and some consistency in order to let the talent of these players go out on the field and be able to shine. Because that, at the end of the day, that's what gets it done, right? But, without a proper plan or without, like I said, stability, these guys have trouble executing consistently, especially when you're drawing up random plays like Shane Waldron was and stuff like that. I don't even care. Just make it simple. And I always say this, you need to earn the right to play chess in this league. You start by playing checkers. And so, I hear you with Ben Johnson. That's kind of what he does. He's out there, everybody thinks he's playing chess, but it's not really all that. It's just that they have a lot of talent and he's just not mismanaging it. Right. And so that's my fear here, even with Ben Johnson, even with Thomas Brown. It's that, okay, now now we're trying something new again here, and we're gambling a first overall pick at a quarterback to do so. Why wouldn't you just go out and get somebody who's at least a bit more stable and experienced?
So I'm going to say something with that, Paul, where me and you were pretty locked in together on that same opinion for a very long time, where I think we were both just kind of like, we want Stefanski, Vrabel, whatever. Right now, I'm at the point with Thomas Brown where if it's not Kyle Shanahan or like Sean McVay, for example, one of those two guys that is the dream pie in the sky guy, I don't even want to interview. I'm that confident in Thomas Brown and what he can do. Not so much necessarily because of what he does, like maybe schematically, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, maybe he runs a similar thing to Sean McVay. A few reasons. He is a football dude, like Nomad said. He is a football player. And right now, the influx of successful head coaches in the league are almost exclusively young or former football players. We're not seeing a lot of these new, these smarter guys that we used to see in the like late 2000s, early 2000s, like even Andy Reid, I think, played a little bit of football, but we're talking about like actual football players. Right now, the young influx of coaches are guys who they still have abs. You know what I mean? Like they're like 38 and they're still ripped. They could probably pop on some pads for a little bit. The youth is there. I think the understanding, and when you say like what we need is like this guy who can bring in some structure, and I'm going to start to tell you, I think I disagree with that. I don't think necessarily we need structure, because as bad as it was and as sloppy as it was, and how, you know, the things that Eberflus got fired for, that's what Eberflus was. He was a structure guy. He was, we get here, we do this. These are our standards. These are our principles, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that's what this team is missing at this point. I think what they need is an attitude adjustment and an attitude-based head coach. I think that's why to them, Thomas Brown is so refreshing, because he walks in and just goes like, yeah, that fucking sucked. We're not doing that again. We're changing that up. And you know why it sucks? This, this, and this. And what we're going to do is this instead. And it's going to be better because this, this, and this. And I think that straightforward nature, maybe it is. And you know how I feel about overcorrections. Usually you don't do them because that's what the McCaskies do in general. And in life, a lot of people just mess up something. Then they find the exact opposite so that they feel better about what they just did. And what they should have done is worked towards something that's a little bit more in the middle, right? And I think Thomas Brown might be a little bit more middle ground than we like to think, because right now we're just seeing this and we're shocked by the transparency and stuff. My other only question to this is honestly, if Thomas Brown does an excellent job in the last 5 games, goes 4-1 or 5-0, which I think is not unrealistic. I think 4-1 is more realistic. 5-0 is stupid. 3-2 to me is going to be, look at how rare am I a homer? How rare am I a happy-go-lucky thinking we're going to win? It has nothing to do with that. I think this team is uber talented. And right now, like most of it is an attitude adjustment. And we lost 6 games in a row, 4 of them easily due to just coaching malpractice. This team is already pretty good. If I'm my genuine concern at this point, like I said, the only guy I would say don't replace Thomas Brown with is a McVay or a Shanahan. If you're Thomas Brown and you just went through what you went through, do you even want this job if you do so good and you probably have job offers somewhere else? Why the fuck? You just watched the sausage get made, and it was the worst. I have doubts that he'll want to come back here more than at this point him being hired by us. We'll fuck that part up, almost guaranteed.
David,
whatever way we can fuck that up, I guarantee it. It's him.
I know no matter what happens, no matter which way we go, when it doesn't work out, I know you'll be screaming at Georgia at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But dude, I think we got 2-3 wins max on this schedule. But no, man, go ahead, man.
All I was gonna say, man, I hate to tell you, Paul, on your own show, man, Dave tapped into the vein, dude. Dave tapped into the vein. Is what he said in a nutshell is exactly what we need. It's talking about an attitude. You know what I mean? What, like me, I'm a dog. I ain't scared. I pat myself on the back. I'm a dog. When I play ball, I was a dog about it. I want to be led by a dog. You know what I mean? And that's what we need. We need a bunch of dogs in the building. I don't know that we have a whole bunch of them. We need some Jaquan Briskers. We need some Tyreek Stevenson. As much as people get pissed off thinking about that play with Tyreek Stevenson.
10 seconds on that, real quick. I don't know if we have a lot of dogs, but the best players on our team are absolute dogs. Jalen Johnson, Montez Sweat, Jaquan Brisker, Keenan, DJ. We got, you know what I'm saying? So I'm with you.
Yeah, we just don't have enough of them. We have a small pocket of them, but in order to, you know, if he's kept as the head coach, and once he gets into the process of drafting, scouting, and gets into, you know, who's on the trade market, who's available, who might be out there and up for grabs, he's a dog. You don't believe me? Just go look at his Georgia film. You can come back and tell me that's not a dog. You know, I don't know football at all, and I need to quit doing this shit. But straight up, this is what you want.
And Nomad, this is my show. It's definitely mine and David's show. We both We both are the blood of this thing.
No,
So
I was just trying to
David,
start some
yeah,
shit.
for sure, man. Thank you, and I appreciate that. But David's always welcome to make whatever points he wants, and he knows it too, man. He's
right on point though, man.
Yeah, he's running this thing when I'm not here and everything like that. But yeah, we're here together weekly, man. And so part of the reason why I appreciate him is because we can have conflicting views, disagreements, and still kind of just voice those things out. And so I get where you guys are coming from with that. So it doesn't concern you at all that you're just going to give a guy a shot that's never done it before. And even with the proof left for the rest of the year, like you said, David, he's still not running his playbook. So like all that's missing is an offseason. Sure, that could be for better. It could be for worse. Like so you're not, you're still kind of gambling in that aspect, in my opinion. Whereas, and I personally would like an offensive-minded head coach, and I know there aren't many of those available that kind of fit the resume that I'm trying to build here. But like just to toss a defensive guy's name out there, like a guy like Mike Vrabel, he's got a lot of experience, and I think he brings attitude with him too. I mean, wouldn't you prefer something more of that route rather than gambling again on a guy that we think might be good?
Paul, I ain't gonna kid you, man. None of that stuff. I mean, I'll just give you two of the more recent examples. One of them for sure, surefire, sure shot coach in Hall of Fame, and that's Mike Tomlin. Never was a coach, didn't have experience doing none of this shit.
And he was an interim as well, right?
Yeah. Also Jim Harbaugh. Probably going to be a Hall of Fame coach somehow. He wasn't. Yeah, I mean, he was a special teams coordinator.
Yeah. I mean, Bruce Arians.
I mean, all kinds of guys out there. It's like if you make that to be the requirement in your mind that this is what you need to be in order to be smashing success as a head coach, I think your mind's down the wrong road, Paul. Be honest with you.
No, so I think what I'm struggling with here is I see like these two conflicting train of thoughts, right? One is we can't trust upper management. They suck. They don't know what they're doing. They're always getting it wrong. And then on the other hand, it's like we have this guy here, and if they make the choice to keep him around, he is the right guy and this and that. But wait a second, I thought these guys can't pick anybody. Like part of the reason Mike Tomlin is because he's on the Steelers. They know what they're doing. They know. I totally trust them when it comes to evaluating coaching and staff. I mean, they're the best at it. So
where do you think it comes from, though, Paul? It's like that started somewhere. You know what I mean?
Understand.
And so
I'm not pretending like we have that, though, Nomad.
No, I'm going to address it. And here's where I'm going to address this. First of all, Mike Vrabel's probably my second choice at head coach over Thomas Brown. Like my power rankings are the impossible, which is obviously Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan. I think everybody's going to compete for them. And if you ask Kevin Warren, by the way, we have the best job opportunity in the NFL. If you're listening to Kevin Warren, because he's a fucking idiot. And
didn't you say that though? I thought you said that.
We do, but I get to whatever. If somebody wants to, I think again, what I think as a job opportunity on paper in a Madden view, right, is different from what a head coach is going to do when they go in and they get flown out on a coach seat on American Airlines while the Panthers or whoever the Bengals are flying you out private to try to woo you. And George is like, well, you should want to work for us because we have the history and the legend and stuff. And, whoever is in charge of, I don't know, name a job opportunity this offseason, go fly you out private, wine you, dine you, 69 you, and then try to, buy you a house on top of it and tell you have full power and full control. While George is telling you about, hey, we'll pay you what your rate is. But what is your rate? And then, you know what I mean? I'm just talking about from a coaching perspective. And then I heard this a lot today, and it was made not as big a deal as before. Firing Matt Eberflus and making him still do a press conference on the day he was fired is going to be a huge question that people ask back to the interviewers this offseason. That's here nor there. But here's my answer. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
No. Here's to address what Paulie's trying to get us to kind of like, here's how I'm going to address talking out of both sides of my mouth, Paulie, with the Thomas Brown thing. At this point, I think we can agree whenever the Bears are successful, I think it's on luck. I think I'm.
I was
going
to say we got to get lucky. That was going to be my comment.
I think anytime the Bears are
That's the road we
successful
have to
at
go
this
down.
point as a team, I think they're doing it basically on luck and a wing and a prayer. This is as lucky as it gets, right? This is like your OC that you hired as a second tier guy, gets promoted, does a good job. Dude, I almost understand how George cowers in fear and stuff and just kind of makes these choices because, like, if I don't hire him, somebody else will. And if they hire him and he's good, I'm going to kill myself. Right? You know what kind of thing?
Speculation in theory polls is making
Sure.
hires, so
Not Kevin Warren said that that's not true openly today. And it's not just Ryan's choice. It's Ryan's final call, but it's going to be a collaborative process is what he said to find the next coach. So that's the one part. I think it has to be on the luck side. And sometimes you do just get lucky on this sense.
yeah, but we're talking about not a head coach. We're talking about a staff.
The other side,
but okay,
that's fine. And then on the other side, what you're saying with the lack of experience and the lack of everything. First of all, the experience is there in the sense of he was an assistant head coach to Sean McVay. He was a full-on offensive coordinator in Carolina with a year that was the worst year in NFL, like one of the worst 10 seasons in NFL history last year from Carolina with that like dumpster fire with Frank Reich and the Bryce Young rookie year and all that good stuff. And he still somehow managed to like keep his job all the way through. And then thirdly, minus a Mike Vrabel or a Kyle Shanahan, every rumored person on this coaching search is what you're talking about. I feel less confident with what I've seen from Ben Johnson as 3 years of an offensive coordinator. I feel not nearly as confident about giving like Lincoln Riley, God forbid, if I will not watch a single game next year if Lincoln Riley gets turned into like the head coach. If you take Liam Cohen, right, from Tampa, if you take Aaron Glenn from Detroit, if you take Bobby Slowick was the name, if you take Marcus Freeman from Notre Dame, all these guys are also, have you seen them do it yet? No. So you can't, like, yes, but like unless we're literally retreading the tires with an old vet, like I said, the problem of that is if Mike Vrabel, who would be my like second or third choice, because I know what would come out with a Mike Vrabel-led team is some sort of identity. I know the players will play hard on Sunday. I know we'll probably see running the ball and playing defense because I'm kind of, like I said, my power ranking is the McVay-Shanahan thing. It's Thomas Brown and it's Mike Vrabel. Oh, and you could even interchange that. But that's where you can kind of talk out of both sides of your mouth because not only that, you're going to see a 5-game audition. So it is an example sample size. This is a rarity. If you could give Ben Johnson an 8-game sample size, you would do it in a heartbeat because you wouldn't know what it looks like. But that's why you can. And at the other part of that of why, luck. You sometimes would just, the Bears are doing all of this shit on a wing and a prayer. And with all their due diligence and all that stuff, they came out of it with Shane Waldron. Maybe sometimes you just need to get lucky sometimes and have a good employee fall into your lap that actually wants to be here.
So, and Nomad, I'm gonna let you answer this real quick. And so, okay, I get what you're saying. When it comes to experience, I mean like actual head coaching NFL experience, not assistant coaching. But sure, I'm not saying Thomas Brown isn't experienced. The other narrative I hear is that he kind of fixed Caleb Williams or kind of got him back on track, so to speak, right? But guys, if we take the Caleb Williams' best quarterback rating of the season was under Shane Waldron. His second best quarterback rating of the season was under Shane Waldron. His third best quarterback rating of the season was under Shane Waldron. His game where he threw the most touchdowns was under Shane Waldron, right? You did see a collapse there. I felt like it was a team collapse. But what you have with Thomas Brown is 3 games and 3 losses at the end of the day as well. Right. So as much as that narrative exists because it looks a little bit better than it did from the like 3-week terrible slump that Caleb did. I'm not sure if Thomas Brown is necessarily doing something extremely special with Caleb, like a lot of people seem to pitch out there as a narrative. And so I'm just throwing that out there. Like to me, these next 5 games are very important. Because I need to see it. I need to see a lot, and I need to see consistency. And that's, listen, if you can do this week after week after week after week, I don't care if the numbers are through the roof or not. That's what matters to me most is consistency and being able to show up week after week. But in my opinion, Thomas Brown hasn't necessarily done anything that special with this offense in the 3 games. And at the end of the day, like I said, we still got 3 losses.
Well, if you're asking me, I see a whole bunch of difference. It's not like Shane Waldron. Like Shane Waldron, I think caught a stray because Caleb, I don't know. I think he just really hit that rookie wall. I really do. I think he hit the rookie wall bad. I mean, and bad. And because he's not a atypical personality, talking about Shane Waldron, you know, he wasn't a guy that can walk in a room and kind of bring people with him. And when he goes in the room, you know, he's been in there. He's not that type of personality. However, Thomas Brown is. He's everything that Shane Waldron isn't. Like I said, Waldron didn't forget how to scheme up offense. He does a pretty good job, but there's something to what Thomas Brown's doing versus what Shane Waldron was doing. And it goes into that whole pure quarterback progression conversation and, you know, all the information that a quarterback has to have pre-snap, post-snap, and that being the indicator as to where Caleb should go with the ball. That's a lot for a rookie. But you have to be kind of read up on pure progression to understand it. You know what I mean? It's like that's a little too much for any rookie quarterback. And Caleb, to his credit, he really handled it well for the most part until he hit that wall. What Thomas Brown has done is come in and dumbed it down, and pretty much what it looks like on film is he's broken it down to pretty much a 2-read throw. And that's really calmed them down, and it basically enables Caleb to get that ball out faster. You don't have to think about as much.
Listen, I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate a little bit here, but I mean, you know, for sure, it's definitely been consistent, way more consistent with Thomas Brown for those 3 weeks than it ever was with Shane Waldron. With Shane Waldron, it was up and down for sure.
I'd like to close out on Thomas Brown because we've been talking about like the maybes and the ifs on Thomas Brown. I'd just like to close it out with one thing. Nomad like took the point right out of my mouth. Pure progression passing is too much for 20 out of 32 starters in the league, regardless of how many years they've been. There's like 6 to 10 guys in football that can successfully run that scheme. And most of them are like 7-8 year vets. Minus that point, I think, Paulie, the same thing, the way we're like talking about talking out of 2 sides of your mouth, you can't like almost say also that Thomas Brown hasn't like proved anything or done anything. But then when you see how catastrophic the coaching scenario is, and you like, I talked about this with Carl, where this kind of stuff doesn't leak for 6 months, 12 months. You hear about it next year's training camp about how tragic the process was, the system was. When Shane Waldron was unbelievably detrimental to this whole franchise. Like, yes, it was Shane Waldron, but at the end of the day, it's Eberflus who interviewed, who agreed, Poles who hired him, and there's plenty of blame to go around. I'm not going to say that it's not, but Shane Waldron taking all of the progress Chris Morgan took out, and I almost don't want to blame Chris Morgan anymore. I feel bad for all the shit he got when he installed all these things for 2 straight years, made a decent running game, and then literally every player was like, hey, like Shane came in here and just like changed the whole running scheme. And they're like, yeah, well, just listen to him. And then when you've got a rookie whose job it is to walk up to the line, identify the mic, check, have one play in his back pocket, plus also slide protections, plus also like hot reads, all that. Like, do you know how much that is? Like, you can't do that. You can't do that on Madden fast enough in 35 seconds. And this kid's doing it as a rookie in 20 seconds. And not to mention, Shane Waldron was already notorious for getting plays in late. So he didn't even leave him with 38 seconds to work with. He left him with 22. So, like, it's all bad and it's all just embarrassing. I don't want to talk about any more of that because, like, really, the Thomas Brown, it is night and day if you're actually looking at, like, nitty-gritty. And this is what I said with Carl. We are now with Thomas Brown. This is what George and the McCaskies are really good at. They make a catastrophic, like, season-ending mistake, get you back to status quo. We are now at a 5 out of 10, and we look like a competent NFL football team, minus the Matt Eberflus and the game management and all that shit, because that's, again, 6 games lost, and, like, 4 of them you can directly blame on a head coach and his lack of management ability. And we are back to status quo, and if people don't see 4-1, we're like, well, this guy can't do anything. Like, this should be like literally games 1 through 5 and how you look at that. So like how you would look at the beginning of a season, and if it goes like 2-3, but it looks good, like there's promise and there's upswing, you have to treat it the same way. And honestly, that's why like there's more I want to get into with Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren and why I still think this is all a catastrophe. But yes, like it's a whole thing. And just to wrap it up, I have nothing more to say about Thomas Brown. I'm in wait and see with a slight man crush, and I kind of don't want to hear any more Thomas Brown slander because he doesn't deserve it because we don't know a damn thing about him.
Well, it wasn't slander. I like I said, I was just playing devil's advocate just to set up the question, just to cover all the bases. I'm not making any case for Shane Waldron here. I mean, I totally agree that was the most detrimental move this offseason that pretty much cost the season. And I'm just saying, if you tunnel vision it through just a quarterback perspective, and if you're one of these people that looks up stats and this and that, you can make those arguments that, hey, look at, you know what I mean? A couple games that Caleb had well and this and that. But no, from Dave, you know me. I'm all eye test first.
Oh, I know.
And then you back it up with stats. And what eye test has shown me is that the team, the entire offense, at least offensive side of the football, respects the hell a lot more for Thomas Brown than they ever did for Shane Waldron, right? And so that matters a lot. You guys that, you know, looked like they weren't putting in effort, and now they are. They're out there trying. They're out there trying to hustle, and they're out there trying to make the best of it. And I'm like I said, I was just going through the different narratives and possibilities.
I know. I know your devil's advocate aspects of that, and that's why I'm not actually offended. But in the sense of like Thomas Brown, like I'm so far into the Thomas Brown, and like I'm working on hope here at this point because I have no confidence in the actual structure of this to work out the way it's supposed to. So that's why I'm on hope. I'm at the hope level so hard that like if Caleb is just like, dude, I'm obsessed with what this guy does offensively, I can't wait to have an off season. You'd got to just rehire him, because if your future is Caleb and he's obsessed with Thomas Brown and he likes him and he likes his attitude and his coaching style and his theories and his schemes, you got to just do it, because what else are we going to do? Now we're interviewing for Caleb for Ben Johnson. What if they don't even fucking like each other 1 month in, and you just paid the highest price for a head coach rookie that you've ever gotten for a 4 or 5 year locked in deal, and now you've wasted all of Caleb Williams on a 4-year deal with Ben Johnson? They don't even fucking like each other.
Hey,
Prometheus, we love you. Thank you for the super chat.
You know what, Dave is, if you listen closely, I think what Dave is getting at is now this is a real situation that if we go down the wrong road, here's the reality of the situation. Everybody's worrying about, you know, what what's going to happen to Caleb. You know, you got to remember too, there's other veterans. There's veterans on this team that came here to win right now. Like we got Kevin Byard, who to me was the best free safety in football before he got here, and we got him for cheap for 1 year. Does he want to come back here and go through this if they start over with a new coach? Number one. Number two, we got Montez Sweat, who came here. It wasn't his choice, but he came here to win. DJ Moore came here to win. Keenan Allen came here to win. You know, you got core veteran guys on this team. Jalen Johnson. Do they want to start over with a rookie second-year quarterback with a second system? With a second system.
If the offensive coordinator at that
point.
Listen,
with Jalen Johnson, real quick, something came to me where I remember.
I'm buying his jersey. He's a fucking hero.
Right. I remember when Jalen Carter was, you know, a potential candidate for the Bears to draft, and that got ran across polls. One of the things that he said was, I'm not sure if we have the locker room leadership in place to be able to have high character guys like that come in. And then hearing the fiasco between Jalen Johnson and Matt Eberflus having to get walked out by Bears personnel out of that locker room because Jalen Johnson was going nuts on him. You think that the locker room leadership that Poles was talking about was actually Matt Eberflus? At the time, we all thought it was Justin. Like, oh, Justin's not mature enough to hold the locker room together. And actually, the whole time, Poles might have been like, yeah, listen, I'm not sure.
We got to rewind the season already a little bit. And, like, the attitude problems from DJ Moore are almost, like, completely justified. Jalen Johnson, the way he acts and the way he's been, I mean, he's like a saint. He's Mother Teresa with how hard he's been working and how he's kept his mouth shut and his tongue in his mouth. Like Jalen, here's the other part of this, and we can get into it as we go through the structure.
I did kind of cut Nomad off there while he was.
I'm sorry, Nomad. Yeah, continue.
No, man. This is y'all show. Man. I'm just here. If you want to hear what I had to say,
no, I do. I didn't mean to cut you off, but it just popped in my head.
All I know is, I always go back to what it's like being in a locker room, and if you got somebody standing in front of in front of the group, I need to be able to believe in this guy. So if we brought a Jalen Carter, let's say there's a coach in front of us. Jalen Carter's in our locker room, character issues, problems with his behavior, all the kind of things that people were like, I don't know that we have the structure in here to be able to keep him in check. I need to have a coach in front of that room and saying, hey, whatever I say goes for all y'all. And that means if Jalen, if you or anybody else thinks that this doesn't apply to you, you got another thing coming. Thomas Brown's got that energy. I don't know if Jalen Carter would have believed that coming from Flus. Flus doesn't have that personality type. You got to be an individual that really goes in there and not only commands that room, but unites every group on the team. I'm talking about offense, defense, special teams. Everybody's united. And I'm listening to that presser today. I know you don't want to talk about no more Thomas Brown, but I'm listening to that presser today, and I can imagine him in front of that group. And like that should have been like the breath of fresh air. And I know that it was a breath of fresh air. Like, hell yeah, let's do this shit, man. Let's get this dude everything we got. He's with us, man. And I'm telling you, you're going to see a different tone and tenor on the sidelines and during the game.
Yeah. I mean, I was just about to close it out.
It's infectious.
I was about to close that out with, we might beat San Francisco by like 20. That's how much harder I think this team's going to play this Sunday. It's like new coach bumps always get you a little juiced up. But I mean, we're talking about they needed a new coach bump in like week 4, and this is like completely deflated. And right now, if they do like Thomas Brown as much as Nomad hopes they do, and as much as I hope they do, they're going to play their asses off to make sure that his resume looks really fucking good and he comes back next year. So they do have something to play for right now. So the Thomas Brown thing is so much wait and see. I don't even want to like.
Remember during Hard Knocks or whatever, we did a show in the offseason. I was like, David, like, what does Eberflus really bring to the table? I was like, he's got nicknames for guys.
Oh,
he's got nicknames.
Oh my God,
that's all I can think of, man.
I can't think of. Yeah. You want to irritate me? Show me that film of Matt Eberflus, defensive coordinator, doing all 22 film with fucking Caleb Williams. Like, why waste that kid? What are you doing? Just proving to Caleb Williams you're the head coach and I can occupy your fucking time? What am I doing sitting here going over all 22 film with you for? Go over there and do the fucking defense, man. This is some shit that I need to be doing with Shane and I need to be doing with Kerry Joseph. You stay the fuck out of this.
Shit, man. I remember John Gruden used to wake up at 3-4 in the morning, sit in his office for the first 2.5 hours just watching tape by himself.
Yeah, but what he would do is he would do that by himself and then give the quarterback a summarized version of what he just did for 3 hours.
This is what stood out.
While Matt Eberflus is actually sitting there going like, let's walk and talk.
That guy's qualified to bring in the quarterback and go through the film. This is Matt Eberflus, a defensive coordinator, in here doing all 22 with fucking Caleb Williams. Man, I'm just like, what the fuck? Get the fuck out of here, man.
That's a dork overcorrecting because all he heard in the offseason was how the new coach and the quarterback have to be like this. So he's just like, this is the only way I can do this. And I'm just going to fucking sit there and watch the tapes, and we're going to watch the tapes, and we're going to watch some tape together.
Now we got an Eberflus impression. I haven't heard that one yet.
My Eberflus is better than my McCaskey.
It is. I liked it. That was all right, Dave.
So moving on, though. Here's why so much of me is so that's why I'm on the hope thing, and I know Paulie's sick of hope, and I don't want to hope either, but that's why I'm gonna go into this offseason with like next to zero expectations. The only way you're gonna get me like actually geeked up about this next upcoming season is Shanahan or McVay or something. That's the only way I'm gonna be like just on the hype train and ready to go. I will listen to that Kevin Warren nonsense and that pandering bullshit that man came out and just spewed out about football and processes and the way to do things the right way. And it was all just pandering bullshit based on the fact that this is what he thinks that us as fans want to hear. Because that's what he thinks, like Nomad said at the beginning. That's what he thought he was there for, like a PR nightmare damage control type thing. And that's not what that press conference needed to be. That's an end of the year press conference. That's not a beginning of the year, mid-year coach firing press conference. That's the McCaskies going like, this is something we've never done before. We need to pull out all the stops and make this the most professional thing we've ever done, blah, 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 blah. Yep. At this point, here's where I'm completely doubtful of the structure of the thing. I'm not gonna rip on George too much. I'm gonna leave George out of this completely. Okay. What I do think is that George is now gonna have a proxy in those rooms, and his name is gonna be Kevin Warren. And I think we're gonna have a dorky businessman concerned about the financials, and a guy who thinks he knows what football guys look like. And because he's been doing it forever, and I've been, I did the Big Ten, and I did I was with Minnesota for a while. Dude, you built a stadium and you managed the financials of 10 schools.
Dave, I thought the exact same thing. Like, talk about a puppet.
Like, they're going to have a proxy puppet in the rooms now, and his name is going to be Kevin Warren. The other part that worries me is at this point you have the only constant in all of this that's always going to be there and never going to leave is George. Right? Is a McCaskey. And you have, when I heard Kevin Warren say it, it kind of blew me away. He's like, I've been here for 20 months. I'm like, has it been that fucking long and you have done nothing? I can't fathom that he's been there that long. I thought it was like 8 months in the back of my head. And then I thought about it, I was like, of course he's been here 20 months. And now he's going to take power away from Ryan, right? And maybe he needs that, because if Ryan Poles had as much power as we would think he does, because here's the only other constant here. If depending on who, look, right, here's where I want to get nicer to George and nicer to Kevin Warren. Paul, we've said this about the Bears since, like, I think year 2 of Ryan Poles. They do everything 30 to 40% way too long. Yep. Everything they do is just dragging their heels, and it's a room full of accountants crunching numbers before they make a decision, because they don't want to be impulsive or offend anyone. They want to do things the right way. I can guarantee George had nothing to do with holding on to Chase Claypool too long. I can guarantee George had nothing to do with holding on to Nate Davis too long, or not trading Velus Jones, or not trading Khalil Herbert when he should have gotten more for him. So this is all on Ryan Poles. So the trend is that Ryan holds on to guys way too long. Should have fired Luke Getsy, should have fired Poles, should have. So if we're talking based on just trends and where the cookie crumbs are, whose fault it is that Matt Eberflus was here too long and Shane Waldron was here too long, I'll give you that argument that it's probably Ryan Poles, because so far that's what he's exhibited with players and with draft picks and with everything else, that he holds on to shit for way too long. The reason now I think this is going to be a catastrophe this offseason, and why I am hoping for Thomas Brown, because if Thomas Brown works out, everybody's going to end up being happier, and they can put all this to the side. Because if Thomas Brown works out, Ryan gets credit for hiring him. Kevin Warren gets credit for helping with the coaching search. Thomas Brown gets credit for this miraculous rise to power and being actually a competent head coach. But if not, you have a guy on timelines. George is never going anywhere. Kevin is now his proxy suit in the room who thinks he knows what he's talking about and is going to be inputting all this stuff. Ryan Poles will get fired, and with Ryan Poles getting fired is whoever the hell they hired as head coach. And then it's going to be this cyclical thing. So you've got a guy. You have now not only 2-3 different guys on different timelines, because that's always the concern we came into this offseason with, right? Is Eberflus is on a different timeline from Caleb Williams, and Ryan Poles is above all that. Ryan Poles is now on a 1-year timeline, maybe 2 left, maybe. And this is the problem, is that Ryan Poles is now having to hire another coach without really any of his own opinion on this, because he's going to be, watched over from the top by Kevin Warren and George McCaskey, because that's what Kevin Warren said. So now Ryan Poles is forced to hire a guy maybe he doesn't necessarily believe in, but he also does have the right to do so, and maybe say no, but maybe not. And then if Kevin Warren gets pissed, he gets to fire Ryan and then blame Ryan for the hiring. It's now, and then Caleb Williams is still here on a different timeline. You have now 4 moving parts with 4 moving timelines. And there's no hope in that. And that's why I said if George was actually as offended and actually cared and actually wanted to do something about it and make the changes that he's claiming he wants to make, and hey, I've done things the same way, now I'm going to do things differently. Fire everyone, find the best team president you can, who is a football operations type of guy, have Kevin Warren shut up and build the stadium and go from there. But it's not going to happen. So
David, Nomad's got to bounce out. He's got his show coming out right after he leaves with us. So yeah, I just want to get his closing thoughts and then say goodbye to him for the night. And then I would tell everybody who's watching, everybody who's in chat, definitely go check out the Nomad Network for more football talk, more Bears football talk.
Oh yeah, and I'm enjoying Dave, man. Be honest with you, man. It's like one thing I will say, and come on over when you guys are done over here and join the Nomad Network and have that conversation, because all we're gonna do is further what we're talking about right here and right now. We're just gonna further it a little bit, and what Dave is saying is it's like this is why I don't really get. You won't ever see me really get real spicy with guys, people that come into the show and people with their opinions. I respect them all, because the fact of the matter is we wouldn't have podcasts and people wouldn't tune in to watch what we do if people didn't have opinions and want to hear what somebody had to say other than a reporter. You know what I mean? So they come and tune in to what we do because they want to hear fans. That's what we are. We're podcasters, but we're also fans. And what we have is opinions about what is. And what I see going on is there's a real strong opportunity to really overthink this, because what we need ain't quite what I think people think we need. I think we need a lot less than what people think. And I think the key to it is the right leadership with the tone and tenor that can really galvanize people and get everybody to play like a united front. You know what I mean? It's like an army. I need everybody on the same page, dude. Everybody, I need your attention. This is the kind of guy you need. You got him in the building, but there's a strong tendency, in every coaching carousel to get enamored with all these shiny pieces out here. This guy, that guy. And all along, you may have had the right guy in your building to begin with. All he needed was an opportunity and the resources to exact his plan. And I believe that's what's going on. And we're going to carry on that conversation on Nomad at Night here in a few minutes. But I do appreciate you guys for having me on and putting up with me. I enjoyed this. You guys are.
It's the other way around. I appreciate you having me on your show and putting up with me, Nomad. That's the actual truth, man. So thank you so much, dude. It's been a great time having you on.
Hey, it's fun, man. Y'all come on over. When you get done over here, man, y'all come on over. We'll kick it over there. But we're going to definitely further the conversation. We're going to pick up where you left off, and we're going to do the damn thing tonight, man. And I appreciate you guys. Everybody in the chat, come on over. You're welcome too, man. Look forward to seeing you guys over there. But thank you guys again.
Hell yeah. Thank you, Nomad. Once again, the Nomad Network on YouTube. You guys check them out. Yeah, great in-depth content. Yeah, you too, Nomad. Dave, I like what Nomad said. We're all fans. If we didn't have these podcasts, we just have, what the reporters say. But me and you, we're fans. We're also friends. Like, we keep it mild for the show, man. We've been screaming at each other on the phone. Like, I've been trying to push your buttons a little bit today. I think I got a little bit at one point. I was like, oh, okay, David doesn't want to talk about this anymore.
I'm just a little defeated about it.
No, I get it.
That's what it is. And that press conference made it worse.
Oh, dude, of course it made it worse. And like I said, I have to play devil's advocate in order to be able to even sit there and agitate you like that. But yeah, dude, I hear everything you're saying. I agree with everything you're saying. I just think, at the end of the day, I get a little bit tired of that whole McCaskey conversation. But dude, you're right on. And I couldn't agree more with the first thing I thought when Kevin Warren was like, yeah, we're going to assist Ryan with the next head coaching search. I was like, oh my God, you're just George. That's what you are now. Just take his name out of it. And by the way, when you said you were going to lay off McCaskey, you still mentioned his name, I think 5 times. I was trying to count.
I was being nicer about it.
You were extremely, but like, no, I hear you, and it's true. And that's the way you sit there and you're still able to get your little fingers into the football decisions from, well, not the ownership level, but hell, right below it, right? And Kevin Warren obviously has no problem being a puppet whatsoever.
No,
Like, no puppet. That guy is here to make a paycheck and do whatever bosses tell him to do, and he is. I feel like he has no backbone. Period. He's here to help build a stadium, and like it's amazing to me because one of the things that stood out to me in the press conference was when he was talking about the things that are the goals for the Bears. You know, he tried to say all the right things in the right order. You know what I mean? But then at the end, it was like, and to have a great new stadium to play in. And it's like, well, no, that's the only thing you're here for. All the other stuff is the bullshit that you're just spewing to us, and we know it, man. You're not. I don't know. You're not involved with any of that. Unfortunately, though, I do kind of get what you're saying. Like Ryan Poles, as much as I like him, he's starting to, you know, they're starting to be more bad than good to a point. And like we have said, things have been done 30% way too late. In this league, you need to be a step ahead. That's why me and you were both like, fire the coach in the offseason. Like, if you do that, it's ballsy as hell. Now, I get it. You're not, you know, experienced or stable enough to really make that kind of move, but you should. Like, you should, that was the right move, right? And so it's hard. It's really hard, but you're 100% right. And, you know, just all these moves being done way too long, it starts to add up, and at some point you do kind of have to take another step back and look at Ryan Poles and start being concerned about how much percent of the blame he gets for all this, because I think it's higher than I initially thought.
Yeah, I think part of that though is again just like I'd love to be a fly on the wall, and we haven't even addressed the fact of like how defeated and deflated Ryan Poles looked. Like he just got like scolded and yelled at like 10 minutes before that press conference, which again, read into it what you want. It just looked bad. It looked silly. It looked embarrassing. Kevin Warren did most of the talking during that press conference. Ryan Poles is only like allowed to speak when you're spoken to. Like, that was basically it. And the tone of that press conference was very tone deaf by the Bears, because most of what they do is tone deaf. And then you watch the Thomas Brown press conference, you're like, what a breath of fresh air. Because I think like what Nomad said, and sliding glass doors moment, man, like the greatest contribution Matt Eberflus did while he was here was change the grass. And other than that, like sliding glass
that fucking Bermuda, man, that Bermuda,
it makes a difference, man. The team looks
made
better.
a great difference.
The sliding doors moment is really if Matt Eberflus just looks semi-competent this year. I feel like we're being set back more than we're being set forward. If this year was 8-8, 9-8, seeing what this team is willing to tolerate in terms of what they consider success and where their standard of success is compared to what they spew, their utter bullshit about creating a contender that can just win the North and never take it back. And our standard is championships and the great history and all that stuff. No. It is actually a huge change, Thigh. Like, genuinely, the grass is a big deal. And it is the best contribution he made to this team. I do.
I don't see the dirt being kicked up anymore. Like
I'm legitimately
injuries out on the field. It has made a difference.
No, I have actually, but it is still the only great contribution he's had to this team, single-handedly, and that's because it is a very high. It is a very good contribution.
It's not ironic. It's just sad.
Yeah, it's just like a sad truth. Watch them change it back now that he's gone. He's so funny. Oh my God. But like, I forgot where I was with this, but the sliding doors moment.
That moment hurt.
Yeah.
What do you mean change it back? No.
Yeah. Well, let's get rid of everything this guy brought. Get back that beautiful Kentucky or Bermuda. No, but the sliding doors moment of what their standard is, and like I am not even like confident is the wrong thing to say. I know for a fact, like if I could see into an alternate fucking universe, if this team was 9-8 and looked exactly the same, you just win half of those games that you lost, Matt Eberflus would 1000% be here next year. So that's why I say it's like it is almost a blessing in disguise because you might get lucky and get Thomas Brown, but that's where we're at, man. Like you want to dominate by design, you want to get the process right of how we hire this coach. I have 0 to negative confidence. If there's a number greater than 0 in terms of percentages, there's not. I have no confidence in this team using whatever structure, plan, and methods they have to finding the next right guy. 0 confidence in it. There is, if Thomas Brown does a good job and every player is like, we want Thomas Brown back, they're going to hire Ben Johnson because he blows their pants off in the interview room with like talking. He was almost, I was listening to the press conference. And I was like, why are you giving so much away? Don't tell the people, the coaches that you are now, you know how these interviews go. You think these are multi-million-dollar interviews for coaches and they're going to go into that shit completely blind, have no idea what this guy is looking for. If you know what your employer is looking for, you touch up your resume and you say all the right things at the interview. And this guy's saying, like, what we want to hear from a guy is the plan for Caleb, and we want to hear about how he's a leader of men and how absolutely don't. That is the funniest comment of the day. The leader of men bullshit. But like, and then he has a high standard and how he's going to execute it. Well, you don't think Matt Nagy walked in that interview and was like, I have a super high standard. Matt Eberflus is like, I have the HITS principle. This is my standard. It's called HITS. And they were like, whoa, they saw the PowerPoint and he started slowly going slide by slide. H for hustle, I, intensity, T. They're like, where are they going to go?
The red flag was when halfway through the PowerPoint, they got the blue screen of death. And he's like, wait a second.
No. The red flag. The red flag was probably when George is like, T. I wonder what T is going to be. I can't think of a T. And then Matt Eberflus goes, the ball. And George is just like, whoa, the ball. That's a B, but he started with a T.
And guess what?
So that blew my mind.
S doesn't even start with S. It's play smart.
Smart. What do you mean by smart? Just smart. Like, not play smart, be smart, just smarts. Like, it's all bad, man. The whatever methods they have, I have 0 confidence in it. That's why at this point, I'm going to watch. I hate that. You know what my least favorite part about this Sunday is, Paul? And I think you're going to know. It's that it's at 3:30.
Oh, yeah.
Least favorite part. I have to sit there and like.
Then it's got to ruin the middle of your day.
Yeah. And then by the time it's over, I'm like half drunk and just angry.
Yeah.
It's all bad, dude. It's so Thomas Brown is like, and this is where I will say with Nomad and where I agree with him, we might not be that far off and that guy might be in the building. Because if this is what you needed and you're that close, we all both agree. I think this is a good team, good roster construction. Team is pretty much there. You got the quarterback. You're not that, if you get this guy who makes the players play hard and you're going to have some decent, mediocre upgrade of play and this is what you needed, then you might get lucky. I don't know. But like I said, I have more confidence in the fact that if I'm Thomas Brown and I see this and I saw the sausage just get made all year, I'm less likely to take the job. Like if God forbid Thomas Brown goes 4-1 or 5-0, God forbid, or whatever, and some team is like, that's a head coaching candidate, because mark my words, Thomas Brown will be a head coach somewhere next year, whether it's here or not. He will be a head coach somewhere. That's a fact. I would not be shocked if it was like, I'm not staying here. I'm going to interview everywhere and just go to the best opportunity because this one ain't it. That would be the ultimate detriment and the perfect summary of what the Bears are.
That's the thing, David. Somehow, some way, this Bears team has made these next couple weeks must-watch football once again, even though we're dead in the water. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. Appreciate everybody in chat. Appreciate the super chat from Prometheus. You're the man. Yeah, thanks everybody for joining us. Thank you, Nomad, for coming on with us tonight. Bear down. David's got a show with Carl on Tuesdays now, tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Central, just about NFL league-wide discussions. And we'll also see you guys next week to talk more Bears football. So thanks, everybody.
Take care.